"Stop right there." The voice of a SEAL commander ripped through the air, just as a young sailor raised his phone to film the ragged old man climbing the podium. The spotlight cut through simulated smoke and gunfire, each bead of sweat tracing a path down Thompson's brow. Thompson, the African-American who once led a top-secret nighttime operation. No one knew that behind those weathered eyes lay the tragedy of lost comrades, and that this moment would shatter every preconceived notion. Ignore this story, and you will never believe in the silent miracles born of quiet courage. Every gaze fell silent as the Seahawk helicopter's roar momentarily ceased, as if the very air held its breath for something extraordinary. Amidst hundreds of immaculately uniformed personnel, an old man appeared, leaning on a weathered cane, his windbreaker jacket faded to pale gray, the rough-sanded limbo wood carved with traditional motifs, his stride deliberate yet unshakable. The crowd, in its rush, wavered. Cameras rose not in admiration, but to mock. They assumed this was merely some forgotten veteran chasing a phantom spotlight. Yet Thompson's gaze was anything but ordinary. His eyes studied every rotor blade, traced each gleaming curve of metal, as if memorizing technical specifications and the very contours of this airborne monument. Not a single word escaped his lips. Thompson, retired Navy Lieutenant Commander, former SEAL Unit 3 leader, stood motionless, a bronze statue come to life. In that sacred mundane silence, he heard none of the young sailors' muffled giggles, nor noticed the bright flashes of their live streams. His mind drifted back 25 years to the Helmand night, when his specially designed infiltration plan had led the SEALs through death's shadow. Today, he came to witness the Seahawks' maneuvers. In truth, he awaited a moment that would honor those who sacrificed their lives for freedom. A sea breeze whipped his silver hair, carrying a sharp hint of salt. The limbo wood cane, a gift from a Chumash elder on San Clemente Island, evoked memories of brutal training days, buried deep in sand and surf. He gripped it firmly. His calloused hands glistened with sweat. Under the midday sun, each crease on his face mapped the rugged terrain of a soldier's life. The ridge of glory, the valley of loss, and the winding road of resolve. The young sailors at his side continued their jeers. One bold youth lifted his phone and sneered loud enough for all to hear, "Think you're someone important, old man?" They chuckled, expecting him to flush, to retreat in shame. Instead, Thompson narrowed his eyes, calculating the rotor's RPM, predicting the bladed arc as it would slice across the sky above the bay. The atmosphere thickened, bracing for the unexpected. And then it came. The Seahawk tilted, releasing a plume of white spray from its underwing jets, and erupted into a cascade of brilliant golden flares that bathed Thompson in celestial light. The helicopter's engines trembled the air, his cane trembled in his grasp, yet his eyes stayed steadfast, deeper, more contemplative. The crowd froze. Over the loudspeaker, the MC stammered, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is not part of the planned program." Waving torrents of light stitched themselves into an arching cathedral above him, a silent rite of recognition. The young sailors gaped, hearts pounding, awed not by the spectacle's power, but by the rarefied presence of this unassuming elder. In that hushed instant, a figure emerged from the shadows backstage, a SEAL in full dress, stride unwavering. Petty Officer Marcus Sarge Davis, once rescued by Thompson amid the chaos of battle, removed his desert-worn cap and saluted with utmost reverence. In his hand lay a battered SEAL trident, a decoration reserved for commanders who safeguarded hundreds of lives. Davis bowed, presenting it as one might offer a soul's heartbeat. "Sir, this is for you." A collective exhale swept through the airfield. Thompson, serene, placed his limbo cane on the tarmac, arms extending to embrace the honor. For a heartbeat longer than eternity, he inclined his head, eyes still fixed on the hovering Seahawk, his silent gesture of gratitude to every pilot who had flown through that black night by his side. In that moment, the true weight of the quiet legend standing before them crystallized, a testament that even the humblest warrior can command the heavens. That cane was more than a mere support. It stood as a witness to tragedy and valor. When it slipped from Thompson's grip, a flood of memories surged forth. Long, wind-whipped nights on San Clemente Island, comrades collapsing in the sand, and the moment a Chumash elder entrusted him with that very cane as a symbol of faith. The slow, deliberate way Thompson bent to retrieve it silenced the young sailors, leaving them awestruck by his quiet reverence. He did not rush. His calloused hands traced each carved motif, as if silently invoking the spirits of those who had fallen. The cracks in the wood battle scars from the Helmand ambush had borne witness to his desperate efforts to pull each teammate from the wreckage. They had sacrificed everything so that he might stand under San Diego's sun today. This cane would never again be mere ornament. As he lifted his gaze, the cane firm in his grasp, Thompson's eyes flickered with a hidden pride. No one could grasp the weight carried by an apology born from a heart riddled with wounds. In that hush, he drew from his jacket pocket a tattered notebook. Its leather cover was worn, and its pages yellowed. Within lay the ballistics formula for the XM 785 round, schematics for the ANPVS-15 night vision system, and brief journal entries memorializing fallen brothers. The young sailor who had earlier trod upon Thompson's cane now crouched behind the barricade, breathless with anticipation. Meeting the sailor's gaze, Thompson's voice, soft yet resonant, cut through the air. "I'm sorry. That must have hurt you." A simple apology, threaded with respect and profound sorrow. Who could have imagined such a humble phrase concealing oceans of grief, the grief of a man who had lost friends, comrades, and a part of his own soul? No one dared speak over the silence. Thompson raised the notebook high, as though it were a testament to sacrifice itself. His eyes narrowed as he flipped to the final page, where a terse entry read, "Night of the 14th of March, 2000 Delta Force friendly fire, led the team to rescue my brothers, could not leave anyone behind." In those few trembling words lay a weight so immense that the air itself grew heavy. The crowd realized then, this was no attention-seeking warhorse, but a man who had stood on the razor's edge of life and death, shouldering agonizing moral choices to save those beside him. The hush that settled over the airfield was not born of emptiness, but of a collective reverence for history's blood and bone flowing through that battered notebook. Lowering the book, Thompson allowed a faint, knowing smile to touch his lips, the smile of one who has borne personal tragedy and embraced an unspoken duty. San Diego's evening sun cast a final glow across the scar etched into his cheek, etching the invisible scars of his heart into the light. The very sailors who had once jeered now stood rooted, their eyes wide with humility. They understood at last that this story was not about acrobatic flight displays, but about the undying courage hidden beneath the glare of ceremonial flares. No one lifted a camera again. Instead, they moved forward to behold the first African-American SEAL to lead a nighttime assault team, a hero who combined technical genius with unwavering bravery to save lives in seemingly hopeless circumstances. In that union of past and present, personal saga and national legacy, they discovered this truth. Memorials may fade, but deeds of courage endure forever. The announcer's voice boomed through the loudspeakers just as the first Seahawk helicopter banked only 50 feet above the ground. The spotlight beneath its wing trembled softly in anticipation of the simulated flare display. Hundreds of attendees at Naval Heroes Day held their breath, phones raised high to capture the spectacular moment. Yet was any of this truly scripted? No one could have predicted that. Mere instants later, the field would fall utterly silent at a spectacle no one had planned for. The MC, still clutching the microphone, was about to launch into his final introduction. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to—" when, without warning, a salvo of flares was released not from the expected launch point, but directly above where Mr. Thompson stood. Blinding white light, like a cascade of shattered crystal, formed a vaulted arch above him. The roar of the Seahawk's engines faded into stunned gasps of amazement. The MC stammered to a halt, voice trembling. "Ladies and gentlemen, this was not part of the scheduled program." Scattered applause rang out, then faded as every gaze snapped back to Mr. Thompson. He remained motionless, his limbawood cane planted firmly on the concrete, his tattered notebook clasped at his side. No superfluous gesture, no explanation offered. In that searing glow, He resembled a living bronze statue, undaunted, unbowed, even after a lifetime of criticism and doubt. That moment etched itself into the audience's collective memory. The young sailors who had mocked him only minutes ago now gaped in awe, uncertain whether to cheer or stand speechless. They realized he was no self-aggrandizing relic, but a man worthy of genuine honor. The surrounding flares formed a halo, softening his wrinkles and silvered hair. Waves of emotion surged: admiration, regret for their earlier scorn, and a desperate curiosity to learn more of his story. Amid the stunned hush, Mr. Thompson did not turn away. His eyes retained their solemn depth, yet glistened with quiet emotion. Then, in a gesture both simple and profound, he placed his right hand over his heart, where the seal trident bestowed by Petty Officer Marcus Davis now rested. The action was unassuming, yet it stilled the hearts of 1,000 witnesses. That insignia, the emblem of the first African-American SEAL to lead a nighttime assault team, lay against his chest, binding the pulse of history to this very instant. The world around them seemed to shrink. Engine noise ebbed away, leaving only the sound of collective inhalation and soft sobs. Those who had once jeered now stepped forward, their contempt transformed into reverence. A small sailor looked up at Mr. Thompson, his eyes wide with grateful wonder. No one spoke. Words would have broken the sacred quiet of that suspended moment. Clearing his throat, the MC resumed, voice thick with emotion. "Ladies and gentlemen, what we have just witnessed." Yet his words trailed off at the sight of a line of veterans advancing to surround Mr. Thompson, each clutching treasured mementos, medals, patches, old photographs to lay at his feet. The young sailors watched in stunned silence, finally understanding that aerial displays are not mere feats of skill, but expressions of the human spirit set alight for freedom. In that instant, the cold cane and worn notebook gained companionship, dozens of service ribbons and images of fallen comrades. No rhetorical flourish, only weighty, silent offerings: a carefully tied metal ribbon, a faded snapshot gently placed on the pavement. These humble tributes spoke volumes, uplifting Mr. Thompson's narrative to soaring heights. When the second flare run was authorized, the Seahawk lifted off once more, carrying the promise of liberty and courage into the sky. But the show's true master of ceremonies was no longer the MC. It was this unassuming lieutenant commander, now standing in quiet command. He saluted not to conclude the program, but to open a new chapter of a story about duty, spirit, and undying bravery. The crowd rose to applaud once more this time, not for a stunt, but for the man who awakened them all. No one wanted to leave, for they knew that beyond the flares and humble gestures, the most extraordinary revelation was yet to come. Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are still to come. And please drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping, so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. Who is that man standing there? The crisp shout of a young sailor sliced through the air, shattering the hush that had just settled over Naval Heroes Day. The entire airfield rocked as phones dropped, and every eye snapped toward Mr. Thompson. The MC, heart-pounding, fumbled with his microphone before managing, in a trembling voice, "Ladies and gentlemen, you heard correctly. He is SEAL Commander Adrian Ace Thompson, leader of Task Unit 3 during Operation Blinding Storm." A wave of astonishment swept the crowd, bursting into cries of "Unbelievable!" The simulated flare display dimmed into silence, giving way to a solemn formation. Scores of African-American veterans advanced from behind the barricades. Their desert-weathered uniforms still bore the sand and dust of distant battlefields, their eyes alight with reverence for Mr. Thompson. Among them, Petty Officer Marcus Sarge Davis, the very man Thompson had shielded beneath his silent heroism on that fateful night of the 14th of March, 2000, slowly removed his cap, dusted with the grit of war. That single, disciplined gesture shrank every spotlight and focus into the singular face of Thompson, his expression rare in its vulnerability. Throughout the ceremony, Thompson had said nothing, Now, at last, a gentle half-smile lifted the corners of his lips. He placed his carved limbawood cane upon the tarmac in a ritual of respect, while his time-worn notebook closed itself with quiet dignity. Each measured step toward the veterans felt like an audience with every soul who had shared his journey through storm and strife. When he returned the salute, his left hand rose to receive the weathered seal trident in Sarge's outstretched palm, an insignia frayed by time, now transformed into a gleaming medal of honor. In that stunned moment, the young sailors who had mocked him minutes before stood paralyzed. They wiped sweat from their brows, eyes glistening with newfound respect. No more jeers, only the soft crescendo of applause, echoing like the heartbeat of a unified brotherhood. The veterans pressed forward, laying hands upon his shoulders and offering subdued bows, each touch carving into history a tribute to Thompson's selfless leadership. Words would have fallen short. Instead, 1,000 grateful gazes spoke volumes. As Lieutenant Commander Thompson stood encircled by the salute of his peers, the lone seal trident on his chest gleamed like a beacon of courage. Seals, veterans, and novice sailors merged into a single current of emotion. The applause swelled into a rolling tide, cascading through the bleachers and across sunny San Diego skies. He paused, trident pressed to his heart, fingertips brushing its etched ridges, silent scars of Afghanistan's desert nights. That emblem carried the lives of hundreds saved by his ingenuity and fearless resolve. In that unspoken communion, the audience grasped the essence of a true hero, one who bore burdens in silence, valuing brotherhood above all. A reverent hush followed as the MC reclaimed the microphone, voice steady yet poignant. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have not only witnessed an aerial marvel but experienced living history, an enduring testament to courage and unity. His words lingered in every heart, reminding them that sometimes the loudest truths are spoken without sound. Eyes in the front rows turned to Thompson, the retired SEAL commander of Task Unit 3, with a mixture of surprise, respect, and a touch of regret. The Seahawks' acrobatic display had transformed into the backdrop for an unscripted tale of silent heroism, one they never expected. Those fresh-faced sailors, moments before brimming with eager anticipation, now wore expressions of stunned wonder. They fumbled for their phones, live-streaming to friends. "Guys, you've got to see this. It's unbelievable." Their sneers dissolved into smiles of pride. They hesitated, then stepped back, making way for the veterans to approach. Each footfall from those who had traversed desert sands and wartime trenches reaffirmed the truth. They were witnessing a legend no longer confined to rumor. The MC hastily adjusted his mic, voice half bashful, half moved. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's performance has taken the most beautiful turn in Naval Heroes Day history." At these words, the families of service members, mothers, fathers, wives, and children rose and erupted into unending applause. The clapping roared like ocean waves, pounding the runway and lampposts, as though celebrating not merely spectacle but the essence of sacrifice itself. Amid that ovation, the whir of rotor blades fell silent. Only the sound of gratitude filled the air. In that moment, every seat in the grandstand felt sacred. Senior officers in full-dress uniforms exchanged solemn nods as Thompson lifted his cane and inclined his head. Combat cameramen accustomed to capturing crisis turned their lenses with reverent stillness, framing Thompson's resolute wrinkles and eyes that shone with hard-won pride. Each image, each frame, would soon traverse the globe, a testament to courage and faith in the human spirit. Below, veterans approached, placing hands on the shoulders of young sailors as if passing the torch to the next generation. Proudly, they whispered of how, under Thompson's guidance, their team had weathered the Afghan inferno, rescuing comrades from sand and shellfire. These quiet anecdotes wove past and present together. Soft laughter accompanied recollections of old nicknames, yet their eyes never left the hero who had steered them through history's darkest nights. At last, Thompson was invited to the dais. The spotlight danced upon the seal trident pinned to his chest. He took the microphone and gazed across the audience moments earlier, the very target of their mockery, now the recipient of their deepest gratitude. No lengthy sermon was required. A single, knowing glance and gentle smile sufficed to convey that valor's quiet heart can dispel every prejudice. From that expansive stage, he spoke softly. It is the silent sacrifices that forge true legends. The crowd rose to applaud again, this time with a spectrum of emotion, astonishment, remorse, reverence, and a burning desire to follow in his footsteps. Their applause echoed like a bridge across sealed generations, linking hearts ever determined to serve and honored to remember. Above, the Seahawk wheeled in a graceful salute to its returning hero. No one dared to leave aware that the final chapter, wherein Thompson would impart his lessons on duty, was just beginning. The flag emblem, a symbol first seen in Lieutenant Commander Adrian Ace Thompson's weathered notebook, was now proudly affixed to his chest. The floodlights caught its gleam, turning it into a jewel of valor and reminding everyone that behind this insignia beat courageous hearts. Leaning on his cane, he stepped toward the podium, each stride deliberate and resolute, his eyes radiating calm pride. As every gaze fixed upon him, Thompson shifted his cane to secure his stance, then lifted both hands to receive the thunderous applause. Triumphant music swelled across the runway like a clarion call to liberty. That soundtrack did more than underscore the ceremony, it resurrected memories within him. The crack of rifle fire in dawn's hush, comrades shoulder to shoulder, and the pledge to defend the defenseless. In that instant, the carved limbawood cane and the old ledger that had borne silent witness to his journey stood in solemn vigil beside the dais. No hollow rhetoric was needed, only a powerful moment of silence. The MC, once the friendly voice introducing the program, now spoke gravely into the microphone. Thompson offered a brief nod, his elbow folding in a gesture of heartfelt respect before he began to speak. Each word he uttered carried weight, etching itself into the hearts of his listeners. He emphasized that the flag emblem belonged not to a single individual, but represented every brother who had fallen from Afghanistan to Iraq, those who accepted loss to secure fleeting moments of peace. He painted vivid scenes of gathering troops, the flag raised high amid swirling dust and shell bursts, sharing scant rations and vowing never to abandon a comrade. He spoke of quiet bravery, of warriors relying on one another to weather Helmand's darkest nights, when even steel helmets could not shield the heart from gunfire. The music faded, leaving only his voice reverberating through the stands. Each phrase was a reminder of duty. He urged today's young sailors not merely to master weaponry, but to grasp the true value of camaraderie, to nurture generosity and readiness to sacrifice. He recalled the Chumash elder who gifted him that limbawood walking stick, a timeless emblem of cultural bond and courage. He spoke of the notebook's entries on XM 785 ballistics and the AN/PVS, 15 night vision schematics tools of nocturnal rescue, teaching that technology is only as strong as the hearts that wield it. The grandstand fell utterly silent. No camera shutter clicked, only the collective breath and a palpitating hush. Thompson's knees betrayed a flicker of fatigue, prompting a lone tear in his steadfast gaze, an unguarded moment of vulnerability. He confessed to occasional humiliation from mockery, noting that such moments had only steeled his resolve to validate himself and his brothers. He reminded them that glory did not spring from flashing flares, but from trudging through mud to haul comrades from the abyss. When his final words, a salute to the families, the veterans, and those who watched in quiet support, hung in the air, time itself seemed to pause. The flag emblem on his chest took on vast new meaning, not merely a cherished heirloom, but a vow of loyalty and the undying quest for freedom. The crowd rose once more, applause swelling like a tide. No longer disparate claps, but a unified beat, hearts aligned in tribute. A Seahawk circled overhead in a dignified salute to this returning hero. The sunset blazed on the horizon, its glow mirrored on the fuselage, creating a scene of grandeur and serenity. Base lights blinked like dormant stars upon the bay, reminding everyone that peace and liberty are not born of chance, but kindled by silent sacrifices. The MC reclaimed the microphone, voice laden with emotion. Today, we honor not just one man, but the spirit of unsung heroes, those who have laid the groundwork for our freedom. Those words resonated deep within each soul, stirring national pride and offering a lasting message. Look beyond the uniform, and you will find hearts beating steadfast for their brothers and their country. As night fell and lamps flickered to life, the flag emblem, the limba cane, and the faithful notebook symbols concluding the ceremony would endure in memory as proof that courage, though quiet, can indeed change destinies. And you, my dear audience, brace yourselves for the next twist in this jaw-dropping story. So, before you get too cozy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you're truly loving what I'm doing here. And drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a thrill to see who's joining us from all corners of the globe.